The winding path to the vineyard was flanked by wildflowers and sun-soaked hills. When Elijah finally approached the humble farmhouse at its heart, exhaustion threatened to pull him under again. But there it stood, quiet, unassuming, and full of life. Chickens clucked near the porch, and laughter floated from a field in the distance. A man stepped onto the veranda, tall and broad-shouldered, with silver at his temples and soil on his hands. His eyes were sharp, scanning Elijah with a mixture of confusion and recognition. "Elijah?" the man asked. Elijah gave a small nod, swaying slightly. Micah's heart strode forward, catching his younger cousin just before his knees gave out. "Boy, what happened to you?" Before Elijah could answer, a woman hurried out from the house, Micah's wife, Judith. Her eyes widened in shock at the sight of him. "My lord, look at you. Come inside, quickly." They helped him in, sat him down, gave him water and warm food. No questions came until his breath steadied, and when they did, they weren't cruel. Only kind. Micah watched him carefully, almost like a father would. "You've grown," he said. "Last time I saw you, you were barely up to my waist. Now look at you. A man, but a man who looks like he's been through a war." "I have," Elijah whispered. That night, tucked beneath a warm blanket in the guest room, Elijah stared at the ceiling. He had never felt so tired, or so safe. Across the village, fate was unraveling its threads in less gentle ways. The girl who had helped Elijah, her name was Amora, stood silently as her madam raged. "You foolish girl. You used my change. You think you can just give my money to some street stranger?" Amora didn't explain. She didn't fight. She accepted the punishment, the harsh words, the slap across the cheek, the night without dinner. It stung, but it was nothing she hadn't survived before. And somehow, when she closed her eyes that night, the memory of Elijah's broken face and soft thank you brought her peace. She'd do it again. A week passed. Elijah's wounds began to heal. Color returned to his cheeks. And though the first few mornings were rough, aching muscles, stiff joints, dirt beneath his nails, he adjusted to vineyard life with quiet determination. He helped Micah in the fields, learned how to prune the vines, carried crates of grapes under the hot sun, and watered rows by moonlight when the days were too dry. Judith often said, "You work like a city man trying to prove something," and she wasn't wrong. Micah saw it too, the way Elijah pushed himself. The way he tried to hide the pain not just in his body, but in his soul. One morning, after they finished trimming the vines, Micah motioned for Elijah to sit with him under the shaded veranda. He poured them both cold water and leaned back in his chair. "You've done good these past days, son," Micah said. "You've worked harder than most would. But I know it's not enough for someone like you. You need more than just labor to heal. You need a life." Elijah looked at him, unsure where he was going. "I spoke to a friend of mine," Micah continued. "His head of security at one of the richest estates in the neighboring village. Real wealthy landowner. Good man. They're hiring a full-time guard, comes with a place to stay, food, decent pay." Elijah blinked. "You got me a job." Micah nodded. "You'll stay in the security house on the property with one other man, an old-timer named Bacco. You'll learn a lot from him. It's steady work. Quiet, most of the time. But it's your chance to build something again. A place, a purpose." Elijah was quiet for a long moment, the weight of the gesture sinking in. "I don't know what to say." "Say yes," Micah said with a half-smile. "And thank me later." 2 mornings later, Elijah dressed in the cleanest clothes Judith had made sure of that. He packed his few belongings in a small bag Micah gave him and set out for the estate with quiet nerves and cautious hope. The estate was larger than he imagined. Gated, sprawling, and laced with elegance. It had beautifully kept gardens, stables, and workers moving with purpose. The guardhouse stood just beside the gates, a small, square building with 2 cots, a kettle, and a radio playing low gospel tunes. An older man opened the door before Elijah even knocked. He was thin but wiry, with leathery skin and sharp eyes that looked like they'd seen everything twice. "You the boy Micah sent?" the man asked. "Yes, sir. Elijah." "I'm Bacco," he said, stepping aside. "You're early. That's good. Grab a bunk." Elijah entered the modest room and felt something stir in him. It wasn't grand. It wasn't glamorous. But it was his. A space of his own. A beginning. It was an hour later when it happened. Elijah stepped out of the guardhouse to get familiar with the estate perimeter. The sun was just rising, bathing the gardens in soft light. And that's when he saw her. Amora. She walked out from the main house carrying a tray of folded napkins, her head slightly lowered, but her presence as radiant as ever. Her skirt swayed gently, her profile carved perfectly by the morning sun. Elijah froze. It was her. The girl who had saved him. The girl he couldn't stop thinking about. Amora didn't see him at first. She passed close, humming a soft tune, heading toward the staff quarters at the side of the estate. He opened his mouth, but no sound came. By the time he gathered himself, she had disappeared into the shadows of the house. Again, no name. No words. But she was here. Fate had brought her back. Their eyes hadn't met yet. But something passed through the air, something invisible but real. As if they both felt the other's presence, even without seeing. Elijah stood still for a moment longer, a quiet smile curling his lips. He didn't know how. He didn't know when. But he knew. They would meet again. And this time, he wouldn't let her walk away without a name. The sun rose over the estate with a soft golden warmth, brushing against the walls and gardens like an artist painting life into the day. Workers began their chores, whispers of water flowing from garden hoses, the distant clink of tools, and the hum of sweeping brooms echoed gently through the compound. Elijah, dressed in his uniform, was making a quiet patrol around the outer gardens. His heart wasn't in it, not completely. Something had tugged at him all morning, a feeling he couldn't shake. And then, fate answered. Just behind the small storage shed, tucked between a wall of flowers and the rusted fence, he spotted her. Amora. She was kneeling to adjust a fallen flower pot, her scarf trailing down her back like a ribbon of sunlight. The moment their eyes met, everything else vanished. Elijah, she said softly, glancing left and right as though the trees might gossip. He stepped closer, careful not to cause a scene. I didn't think I'd see you again, like this. She straightened slowly, brushing dust from her hands. We can't talk here long. It's risky. I know, he replied, his voice low. But I needed to thank you, properly. She glanced toward the estate house, then back at him. You're welcome. I just couldn't leave you like that, back then. What's your name? He asked gently. I never got it. She hesitated, then whispered, Amora. Elijah, he said with a warm smile. Though. I go by Eli around here. Just Eli. Amora looked at him, confused. You changed your name? Let's just say. I'm trying to start over. Simpler. She nodded, though something in her eyes held curiosity. Before either of them could say more, a bell rang from the main house. Amora flinched. I have to go. Wait, will I see you again? She hesitated, bit her bottom lip, then fled without answering. But that night, tucked under Elijah's pillow in the guardhouse, was a small, folded note. It read, Come to the shed tomorrow after lunch. If you want to talk. Their hidden place became their haven. A small, forgotten corner behind the shed, surrounded by climbing vines and shaded by the tall garden wall. They met in short, stolen moments, always aware of watching eyes, but unable to stay away from each other. At first, it was small talk, weather, chores, the loud rooster that woke them up too early. But one afternoon, as the breeze danced with the leaves and the world quieted, Amora opened her heart. I've never belonged anywhere, she said, hugging her knees. I'm just a maid. I've always been one. Elijah watched her, his heart tightening. My parents died when I was 7. I bounced from one distant relative to another. No one wanted me for long. Eventually, I was sent to serve the family I live with now. My madam, she's cruel. Her children are worse. Her voice faltered, but she didn't cry. She never cried. I've never had a birthday cake. I've never been hugged since I was a child. But I always dreamed of having a home. A small one. With laughter. And someone who sees me. Just sees me. Elijah's throat felt thick.